Welcome to the Clique podcast. I'm Danny Watson, a mindset and manifestation expert and founder of the Clique, a company that helps women overcome their fears and limiting beliefs to create a life and business that they love. Within this podcast, I will help you get clear on what you want, identify the blocks that are holding you back, transform your mindset and raise your vibration so that you can co-create magic with the universe. If you are looking to design a life that truly sets your soul on fire and manifest more success and abundance, then you are in the right place. Hello ladies, and welcome to a brand new episode. Now, if you have kind of not fallen out of love with manifestation, but perhaps fallen off the manifesting bandwagon, maybe you've not been giving it so much thought recently, you've perhaps been feeling a bit flat when it comes to mindset work, then this episode is definitely for you. Now, before I kind of continue with this, I want to mention that sometimes when we do stop manifesting, and when I say stop manifesting, I mean consciously manifesting. Because we're always manifesting stuff, right? Whether we like it or not, whatever we are thinking about, whatever we're focusing on, we're calling into our existence. What I'm talking about here is conscious manifesting. So consciously choosing our thoughts in order to consciously choose our realities. If you feel that you've fallen behind a little bit with that, it's not necessarily always a bad thing. And this was a realization I had recently when I realized that I hadn't really been kind of focusing on manifesting a lot as of late. And I kind of also really put my mindset work on the back burner. I hadn't really been giving as much time and attention to the law of attraction and to mindset and, manifesting a new reality as I normally would. And actually, it wasn't necessarily a bad thing because if I was honest with myself, it was just because of the fact I was so incredibly content with where I'm at right now. The first time in a long time, perhaps even in forever, I've just felt so at ease and at peace with how my life is right now, feeling so incredibly blessed with how it is right now, that I've not really felt that need or desire or that pull to manifest anything different. Okay? Now, this isn't necessarily always going to be a forever thing, because I believe that one of the keys to happiness is progress, okay? That feeling that we are sort of working towards something more, okay? But recently, I've just not felt that desire at all. And I don't think I've ever experienced that before. I've always been somebody who's looking for that what next, okay? I'm great where I am, but what is next for me? What is next for me in my business? What is next for me in my lifestyle? What is next for me in terms of my finances? And for the first time recently, I've just been experiencing this absolute complete contentment with the right now. Okay, and the byproduct of that is that I've not really been thinking about manifesting, because I've not really been thinking about what's next. I've not really been bothered about what is next. So that falling off the bandwagon with manifesting is not always necessarily a bad thing. But what if it is? What if you have just got to a place where you're perhaps feeling a little bit flat? Maybe you kind of discovered the world of manifestation and you got really excited about it and you started creating momentum with it. And then it just kind of fell away to the wayside. And since then, you've kind of not really given it much thought. Maybe you've become unintentional with your thoughts. You've perhaps let go of that mindset routine. What happens in that situation? Now, from my experience, whenever I've felt this, it's normally because I've been stuck in that manifestation gap. And what I mean by that is the space between starting to do the work with manifestation and, starting that mindset routine, and that gap between starting that and actually getting your desires. Okay, so normally we don't just start thinking about what we want and it drops into our lap instantly. There is a gap between getting clear, telling the universe what you want, and the actual physical receiving of that desire, okay? And humans are impatient. I think in a society which allows us to have everything at the snap of a finger, we can order something online and it can be delivered the next day or even the same day. We're so used to getting what we want at a lightning speed, we forget that actually in normal life, sometimes we do have to wait for things. Sometimes things do take time. And in that manifestation gap, we can get impatient, we can get frustrated, we can start to doubt that what we want is on its way. And that then causes us to think, well, is this even working? Why am I even bothering doing this work? Because I'm not seeing any sorts of results. Okay, so if you're in that place where you've perhaps got a little bit flat because you're not seeing the instant results, what I would encourage you to do, rather than thinking about the end desire and thinking about, okay, I don't have that yet, think about what you've gained. Okay, so rather than thinking about what you still lack, maybe you still lack the wildly successful business. Maybe you still lack the money in the bank account. Rather than focusing on that, focus on how far you've already come. Okay, and we do this by seeing the manifestation process not just as the receiving of certain physical things, but a shift in who we are being. Okay, so it's not just about what we are having, it's about who we are being. And that is something that we have control over every single day. Every single day, whether or not you receive a physical manifestation, you have the conscious choice to step into a higher version of you. This is something that is totally within your power every single day, to be a different person. So could you choose today to be more confident, to be more positive, to focus more on the good stuff, to be more grateful? Could you consciously choose to step into that higher version of you? Because then what you're able to do is you're able to see how you are manifesting this higher version of you. So you are very much focused on what you are manifesting versus what you are still lacking. Okay, so a great example of this was when I was first in my business and I wasn't the multi-million pound business owner yet. I wasn't super successful yet. I didn't have the dream home yet. But what I was able to see was the changes within myself. Every day I was becoming more confident. Every day I was becoming more aware of my boundaries, more aware of what lights me up, more aware of what I knew I needed to say no to, that self-awareness. Every single day I was gaining something within myself. And these were the things that I started to focus on. Okay, so rather than looking ahead of you and seeing all that you don't yet have, how about look at what was yesterday, or what you were like last week, or even, a couple of weeks ago, and see how far you've already come. And this is where keeping a journal becomes really, really helpful, because sometimes it's so easy to forget how far we've come because we're so focused on where we still want to go. And for me, looking back at my journal entries was so powerful because it made me realize that, wow, just 1 month ago, I was second guessing myself all the time. Just 1 month ago, I was filled with dread and anxiety every day. Just 1 month ago, I was, waking up and I was feeling miserable. I was complaining a lot. Looking back at those entries, I could see that I wasn't in a great place. And then a month later, wow, it's like, look how far I've come. And that realization that you are making progress is going to fuel you to keep on going. If we feel like we are just doing things and not actually ever progressing, of course, it's easy to feel deflated and therefore give up. So keep yourself in that forward momentum by reminding yourself how far you've already come. It's also worth looking at what your desires actually are, and if you could create a perhaps more of a mid-level desire in between where you are now and that ultimate big goal. And I say this because it's very easy to get excited about the really, really big stuff, okay? So think about when you first discovered the law of attraction and maybe you started thinking about that dream home or, having millions in the bank account. It's very easy to get caught up in the sexiness of all of that, okay? And, it feels really, really exciting. But when we start actually kind of going through the process and we kind of get into the reality of the law of attraction and we start to kind of go about our daily lives, all of a sudden those big lofty goals can almost feel like a bit of a pipe dream. They're like, yeah, okay, that was exciting when I first started to think about it, but now I'm back to the reality of my daily grind, and it just feels like this kind of fake dream that's out there in the middle of nowhere, a million miles away from where I am now. It almost feels like, yeah, just a bit beyond my reality. So if you're kind of feeling that way, my suggestion would be to bring your goals a little bit closer to you. What is something that can still feel incredibly exciting, but is a bit of a stepping stone between where you are now and that really big goal? So maybe the next goal is for you perhaps just getting started on your business, if that's kind of where your head is at right now. You're kind of wanting to go down that path. Or maybe in terms of income goals, maybe it's setting yourself a smaller income goal that's a bit closer to you from where you are now. Now, I want to say that this isn't about settling. It isn't about lowering your standards or saying, oh, well, that goal's too big for me, therefore I have to set myself a lower goal. The big goal is still there. We're just giving ourselves a stepping stone to that goal. Okay, so imagine that you are literally on a pond with these sort of stepping stones that will help you get to the other side. Imagine if there wasn't a stepping stone, you had to basically leap across that pond. You end up falling in the water. These smaller goals are ultimately the path to the other side. They're going to get you there in a safer, much more enjoyable way. Okay, so this isn't about lowering your standards at all. So what is a goal for you that's perhaps a slightly smaller goal that still feels exciting? Because guess what? The closer we get to the goal, the more exciting it becomes and the more momentum we're then able to create. When a goal feels so far away, it's easy to think, wow, God, it's so far away. I just don't think I have the energy for that, and therefore I give up. Okay, if the goal is, right in front of you, imagine, kind of think of it as, when you see people and they're running a race or running a marathon, and all of a sudden the finish line comes into sight. What happens? In that moment, they get this sudden burst of energy. So all of a sudden, they've kind of found this extra motivation, this extra surge of energy that's going to take them over that finish line because they can see it. It's in sight. That's almost the same when it comes to your desires. When you can see something, when it's really close to you, it's easier to get that motivation to keep going. Now, if your mindset routine isn't giving you the same sort of excitement as perhaps what it once did, try changing the environment in which you actually do your mindset routine. So this is something that I tested out a while ago, and I found it worked really, really well. I would do my mindset routine in what I would call my sacred space, and I still very much have a sacred space, and that might be sometimes where, I meditate or where I journal or I, work on my mindset. But I found that I'm somebody who thrives on a change in environment. I love kind of putting myself in a different sort of environment. And I actually found the simple act of taking my mindset routine outdoors really worked wonders. So this is actually something that I've been doing recently to sort of kind of get myself back into the flow of a mindset routine again. I've actually just been walking around my garden with my daughter and using that time as my sort of mindset ritual. So my little girl at the time of recording this is just a couple of months old and doesn't sleep very well anywhere apart from on me, which makes doing any sort of mindset routine very challenging, pretty much impossible. So she wants to be on me, close to me all the time. So I will keep her during the day. She'll stay within her little baby carrier. And what I will do once she's asleep is I will walk around the garden and use that time intentionally. So rather than just kind of letting my mind wander wherever it wants to wander, I will think about things that I, wanted to call into my life at the moment. I will use it to visualize. I will perhaps quietly say out some affirmations to myself. I will use that time wandering around my garden as almost my mindset ritual. And this was actually something that I've done previously. When I lived back in the UK, I would often go on a walk around my local park with my dog, and again, use that time to visualize what I want. And just the simple act of reminding yourself about your desires, thinking about, that dream life, how you want your life to plan out, the business you want to have, the home you want to live in. Just spending, just 5 minutes walking and thinking about that can actually be enough to reignite your enthusiasm for mindset work and for the law of attraction. Now, coming back to what I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast about how I've not really been consciously manifesting anything recently, because I've not really got any very strong pull factors at the moment. There's nothing that I desperately feel like I need or want, because honestly, right now, I feel like in my life, I have everything that I've ever kind of possibly desired. And there's neither any sort of strong push factors either. So what I mean by that is there's nothing that's really, deeply uncomfortable in my life that I want to move away from. I feel very, very happy with how things are at the moment. There's nothing in my life that I'm like, oh, I wish things were different. And what I know to be true from my experience of law of attraction and manifestation is that my desire to really commit to the work has always come off the back of a really strong push factor or a really strong pull factor, normally a combination of the two. So what I mean by that is my current circumstances have been so uncomfortable that that's given me the motivation to want to change, or there's been something that I've so desperately wanted and desired that has also given me the motivation to change. So an example of this was, I had a very strong push factor when I was deeply miserable in my job and I wanted to change my career, and I was very unhappy with my living situation, with my finances. There was lots of things in my life that I really, really wanted to change. So they were a very strong push factor for me. And it was at that point in my life when I had huge amounts of motivation for mindset work and for conscious manifestation. There's also been the very strong pull factor of wanting to purchase a home overseas. And so this is something that has been a recent manifestation for me, where, just a couple of years ago when we were in lockdown, that's kind of when I got the strongest desire to have a home overseas. I really, really wanted to be somewhere where the sun was shining. I wanted a beautiful home where I could see the sea from. And I had this really, really strong urge and desire to have this home. And so at that time, I was way more motivated in terms of, my manifestation work and my mindset work, because I had this really, really strong pull factor. Now, if we don't have either of those, it's easy to fall flat when it comes to mindset work. If we're not working towards something or working ourselves away from something, it's like, well, what is the driving force? What is the reason why we would do our mindset work? Okay, so you need to perhaps reconnect with that push or that pull factor to get you back on track. Now, let's think about the pull factor. So reconnecting with your desires, something like via visualization or journaling about what it is that you want, to start getting yourself excited for that desire. You have to be hungry for it. It has to be something, a burning desire. If you're half-hearted about something, of course it's easy to give up on working towards that thing. If it's something that you're a bit nonchalant about, oh, it'd be great if I had this, but, I'd be happy without it, then are you really going to stay committed to that path? Perhaps not. So it has to be something that you really, really want. Okay, or it has to be something that, you're able to ignite your desire for it. You're able to increase your hunger for that thing. So let's say it is the dream home. That's what you're looking to manifest. It has to be something that you are so incredibly passionate about having. And to increase your passion for that desire, for me, that's where visualization really comes into play. Or doing things like road testing that dream life. I've spoken about this in previous episodes, where I would go and actually, when I was living in London and I was trying to manifest a new place to live, I would go and look at properties. I would go and, sign up to an estate agent, and I would go and look around flats, imagining that I at the time was going to be moving into one of these flats, even though at that point my finances wouldn't have allowed for it. So I was basically road testing what my future life would look like to help me get more excited and more connected to my desires. If our desires are just in our imagination, it's sometimes easy to feel a little bit disconnected from something. And we're not going to feel as passionate about something if it is, a bit sort of out there in our, in the universe, but we haven't really felt like we've experienced it before. If you give yourself a little bit of a taste of your desires, it helps to fuel your passion for that desires even further. Another little thing, which I've spoken about previously, I would go and take myself for, a coffee or even just a glass of water in these beautiful luxury 5-star hotels in London. And I would work there from the day, imagining that I was the sort of person that was staying at these kinds of hotels. Okay, so I was giving myself a glimpse of what life could be like. And once you have a taste for that, you will never want to go back. Your desire and passion for that goal is going to be ignited. Okay, so, it might be that your pull factor just needs a bit of, needs a bit of ignition. It needs something, you need to get hungrier, or more passionate for that desire. Or maybe there is no pull factor, no push factor rather there for you. Maybe your life at the moment, maybe it's not, amazing, but maybe it's not really painful either. Maybe you've got to a place where things feel quite comfortable for you. Okay, and I've seen this play out a lot with friends where, their life isn't, maybe they're not living their dream life, but they have things pretty comfortable. Maybe their job isn't their dream job, but they get paid well, they go to work Monday and Friday. They're kind of just coasting through the motions. And that's often a really dangerous place to be when we are just coasting. Because, maybe things aren't terrible, but we're never going to have that catalyst for change. If things are very, very comfortable where we're at, there's nothing that's going to give us that kick up the bum to say, okay, do something different, because we're kind of fine where we are. So if you don't have that strong pull factor, what can you do to change that? Okay, now this is where it's a little bit more interesting, because obviously if we're comfortable, we don't want to make things uncomfortable for ourselves. But actually, by making things more uncomfortable, we're more likely to change. We're more likely to have that motivation to continue with our mindset work. We're more likely to be drawn to work such as, manifestation, conscious manifestation, because we have a reason to make changes. That discomfort is a catalyst for change. So how do we artificially create the discomfort? Now, this is something that you might want to try out, because it's worked for me previously, and I've had clients that they found that it's worked for them as well. If there isn't anything in your life right now that is causing you discomfort, to create something within your life that is uncomfortable, to create a routine that is uncomfortable for you, and then doing your mindset work off the back of that routine. So I spoke about this, I think it was actually in last week's episode, or maybe a couple of weeks ago, about getting out of your comfort zone. Something like doing a cold shower, okay? Where you are immersing yourself in really, really cold water. Try committing to a routine where you do the cold shower exercise and then do your manifestation or your mindset work off the back of that cold shower. Or something else you could do that's really uncomfortable, something like a really strong workout. So maybe you're not a runner, but you take yourself on a 5K run, which is very, very uncomfortable for you. Or you do a really, powerful HIIT workout, something that's going to make you feel uncomfortable. Then, once you've done that thing, then try and do your mindset work. Because what you're doing is you're changing your physical state. So if you're somebody right now that feels a bit flat and you are coasting through the motions of life, try and do something that changes your physical state, such as the cold shower, such as, a really hard workout routine. And then come to a mindset ritual off the back of that discomfort and see if that makes a difference. Because I found whenever I try and do a mindset, routine from the back of just feeling quite complacent, comfortable, like a little bit flat maybe, I've never really found that I've got that excitement or that fire in my belly for the mindset work, because I'm coming into it from that place of feeling flat. So change your state by putting yourself into that position of discomfort and see if that makes a difference. For me, I know it makes a world of difference. So if ever I wake up one day and I'm feeling a little bit flat, feeling a little bit complacent, maybe I'm not really excited about anything, within my business at the moment, or I'm not working towards anything, I'm just kind of going through the motions, I will put myself into a position of discomfort. I do something that makes me feel uncomfortable, and that I find lights something up within me. I don't know what it is, but then doing my mindset routine off the back of that, I find that it gives me that motivation and passion that I am looking for. So I hope all of these tips helped for you today and you enjoyed this episode. Let me know on Instagram if there's anything that you would like to hear more of on this podcast. Come and say hello, Danny_Watson_coaching. I've had a lot of messages recently about my book, Self-Love and Spiritual Alchemy. It is on Amazon. That is the only place at the moment where you are able to purchase it. I don't know if that will change in the future, but I think pretty much everybody has access to Amazon anyway. So yeah, my best bet would be to go and you can go and purchase it through there. So that's Self-Love, Spiritual Alchemy. If you just type that into the search bar, the book will come up, or you can just actually type in Danny Watson as well, and the book should come up there. So yes, once again, thank you ladies for tuning in, and I will catch you on the next episode. If you are wanting to build your own successful online coaching business, make sure to check out Freedom, Abundance and Impact, our free 10-day business and mindset course for coaches and aspiring coaches. To access, simply head to wearetheclique.com and click free course in the menu.